shall be the whole of the law. Hey everyone, FRATER Super here again. Thanks for checking out my channel, where we are and always will be the home of common sense occultism and practical magic. Thank you for joining me today. Really quick, you know I'm going to say it. If you're new and you haven't already done so, please look below, find that big red subscribe button and hit that for me now. Then look to the right, you'll see a bell. Make sure you hit that bell as well. That way you are notified each and every time we upload new content to this channel. And you can watch it as soon as humanly possible. One last thing, but definitely not least, please remember to like and share this and all videos. It goes a long way to helping us grow this channel, and it's very much appreciated, so I thank you in advance for that. Thank you very, very much. Really quick, let me get this out of the way before we get to the topic at hand. If you're noticing an echo or any poor audio quality, my apologies for that. I am experimenting with a different microphone. And I'm trying to work out all the kinks, and as I've mentioned in the past, I am not the most technologically inclined person, and this whole thing is very much a learning experience for me, so please bear with me, and I'll work out the kinks as soon as I can. Bear with me. Thank you. Okay, I'm not going to ramble on and on about that, so let's get on to the topic at hand, and that is devotion. Specifically devotional aspects and practices as they relate to spirituality in general, but specifically to the magician and being a successful magician. Now, as a side note, also going to be talking about how this relates to being a Thelemic magician and how there is sometimes I don't want to say controversy, but there's some discussion, there's some conversation about the big D word, that being devotion, as it pertains to Thelema and being a Thelemic magician. So, as with anything, I think it's important to define what we're talking about before we just start talking. So the word devotion, as defined by the good old dictionary, is, I'm going to read it right to you because that's just the best way to do it, in my opinion. Devotion as a noun, as love, loyalty, or enthusiasm for a person, activity, or cause. Eleanor's devotion to her husband. Now, what we're going to be talking about today is this: religious worship or observance. The order's aim was to live a life of devotion. Synonyms: devoutness, piety, religiousness, spirituality, godliness, holiness, sanctity, a life of devotion. Prayers or religious observances, plural noun, devotions, synonyms: religious worship, religious observance, etc., etc. So, as I said, specifically, we're going to be talking today about religious worship or observance and how that pertains to the magical path or the spiritual path. Now, a lot of times, not just Thelemites, but magicians in general, especially if they come from especially if they're no longer consider themselves Christian. Let's just put it out that way. I don't want to use pagan as an umbrella term or whatever, although I do consider myself pagan. And it is very much an umbrella term now, but I don't want to use that umbrella term. I'm just going to say non-Christian. So if you see yourself as a non-Christian, a lot of times this whole subject of devotion can be like I said, it can be a slippery slope to some. Just because most of the time they've been raised in a atmosphere where they had, even if they didn't always follow them, but they were told you were supposed to be very strict and observe certain things, and that this was devotion, and you had to be devoted to this Abrahamic God, and you had to say these prayers and ask for forgiveness for this and attend church on these days and blah, 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 blah. And yes, that is very much devotion. And some people feel that has absolutely nothing to do with magic. In my opinion, you are wrong. very much so. I can say from my experience, from personal experience, and this doesn't mean that I'm it's going to be this way for everybody, but I'd be willing to say it's pretty crazy if it doesn't work this way. But the more devoted you are, and the more, let's say, religious like you are with your magic, the more successful it's going to be. The more your skill is going to be honed, the more you're just going to get better at it. And of course, defining magic as the art and science of causing change in conformity with will. And okay, let's just I'm not let's get this straight. All right, when I'm talking about magic now, I'm talking about magic, magical ritual, bringing about change via invocation, evocation, some sort of energy or force embodied in something else to cause a change. I'm not talking about this is magic. I walked and I went over here and opened the door, and that's magic. Every act is an act of magic. No, we're not getting into it. We'll have that debate another day. I find that so annoying in a lot of cases, but that's not what I'm talking about. So let's put that on the back burner right now, and let's use some common sense. We're common sense. If you're a CSO, if you're a common sense occultist and you use common sense, when I say magic, know that I mean doing magical ritual, or what you really think about, what anyone thinks about when you use the term magic. Jeez. It's sad that I have to break it down like that, but and I'm sure you know that sometimes you have to, because someone will throw that out there. They'll want to be a little smart ass and just be like, well, I'm doing magic all the time and yada yada. You knew that wasn't what I'm talking about. Anyway, so yeah, when I'm talking about magic, I'm talking about magical ritual. So why would this be important? You may say, why? Why is it important? Because devotion is a very broad term. And if you're not going to be devoted to that magical regimen that you structured, if you don't show feeling or love or just excitement towards that, then you're probably not going to get as much out of it as you would if you were, or if you did, excuse me, if you did. I feel that it's important to have that sense of devotion when it comes to your magical practices, not just this you hear a lot of people talk about the lust of result, and wanting to gain things, and all that stuff. But all of that is just it loses feeling. It loses meaning, I guess I should say, if there is no devotion in it. At least that's how I feel. I mean, I'm sure there'll be some people that disagree, but I think the magical path is very much a path of devotion. And if you eliminate that, you're setting yourself up for failure. Now, of course, you could argue everyone's different and blah, 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 but in a general sense, I really believe that if you don't have that devotion, that love, that excitement for your craft to get better, then, it's just like scratching your arm. It's an unmeaningful act. And I think we all agree, or at least we should anyway, that magic is cool, you know? Like this is cool. Like you know, you hear me talk about being lighthearted and having fun, and magic ritual can be a fun thing. And it's a very serious thing, but it's cool. I mean, it's a cool thing. I mean, you see all this stuff, you know, as far as magic on TV and movies and, you know, things like that. And, you know, it's just such a cool concept. And for that to actually be a real thing, I mean, we don't, you know, it's not, of course, it's not the same as it is on TV and movies and whatnot, but, you know, we do get to, you know, wear the robes and, you know, have the cool items and the wands and the swords and the crystal balls and all that good stuff. And uh, that's it. It's a process, but it's an experience, and it's a very cool experience. You do this, and this happens. You try to you create this this environment for a goal. You follow a list of actions, that being the magic, and then you obtain said result, and that is just neat. To me, I don't know. I'm fascinated by that. It's cool. It's very simple, but you know the whole process of it is just it's really cool. And I guess what I'm getting at is how can you how can you not be devoted to something like that? You know, something so cool. Why would you not think that devotion and love and excitement? How can you not get excited about something like that? I mean, I also did a video about, you know, how magic and the spiritual life makes your life harder, not necessarily easier, and it doesn't fix all your problems, but it gives you all the tools to fix your problems. And again, that's cool. But in that same sense, devotion is such a big part of that. And I know I'm probably talking in circles on this, and again, this happens in my videos, and I end up going in a different direction than I originally thought it was supposed to go. But I go where I'm led, and I'm a big believer in intuition and listening to the voice of the angel or the daimon, or you know, how whatever you want to define that is. So I very much go with the flow, and this just seems to be the direction that this video is going. So um, we will bring it, but it all comes back to the main topic anyway. So again, it's just super important. So when I hear people get all up in arms about, well, this is old Aeon behavior because you show love for a deity, or your devotion is something that you know, we don't need that anymore. You know, I'm doing what I wilt. That bothers me. Uh, because again, if everyone's will is the individual will, it is the divine will, the greater will. You have to be devoted to discovering that, for one, and to doing that. And if you're going to be all, you know, Crowley-esque about it, I mean, how was he not devoted? I mean, it just seems very obvious to me that he showed, not only did he write things like Liber Astarte, where you literally showed devotion to a specific deity, set up altars to it, prayers, the whole thing. It's a beautiful act of devotion. I encourage you to read into it and perform it. And the man, he screamed that this was important through his actions, in my opinion, at least. And I think, I don't know, I think it's real easy to lose sight of things if you don't have that devotional aspect. It's real quick. Things lose meaning really quick. Now, again, when I say devotion, I don't mean necessarily this whole, oh, I'm going to swear a blood oath to a specific spirit or deity or whatever. That's not what I'm talking about. But you very much can have a relationship with a specific spirit or god, goddess, entity, whatever. And you can show love and devotion towards that without being fully subservient, like Thelemites get all up in arms about. Like, oh no, we don't need that anymore. This is the Aeon of Horus. We don't need such behaviors. I don't need a Jesus anymore. I don't need a dying God to save me. You know, we hear stuff like that all the time, and it just, it's not the same thing. If you think that's the same thing as showing love for a specific deity and doing religious-based type practices of devotion as a part of your magical path, then you're really missing the point. Because one, it's right there in things like Libra starting. Now, I know some people will say, you know, oh, well, that's just a metaphor for the Holy Guardian Angel, which is just a metaphor for the higher self, which is just a metaphor for the mind and consciousness. Well, you can't prove that, for one. And two, if you know you want to look at it that way, that's fine. Go ahead. But you know, I find that boring. I'm very much into the whole spirit model of magic, and you know, I do believe, you know, in other entities outside of myself. Speaking of which, you know, we got team merch below, so look below, get yourself a Magick It's Not All in Your Head t-shirt, link in the description. But yeah, back on topic. I don't know. I just and you know, maybe I lose my cool a little bit over things like this, but you know, it does burn me up inside when people, you know, don't necessarily recognize the importance of showing that love and devotion towards other things. I mean, it is do what thou wilt. You know, we're all here to do our purpose. That is number one, and that is the ultimate act of love. But in my opinion, and do I have any proof of this? No, you know, other than, you know, what I've experienced in my own journey. But in my opinion, that's not possible without showing some form of devotional experience. And if you cut that out, it's all pretty bland. And that's just not what magic is to me, and I don't find it fun, and I don't find it interesting, and I don't find it beneficial. If you cut that out, it loses a lot of its flair, and I don't know. I could, you know, when you do a ritual or a spell or whatever, you know, there's always this part where, you know, there's a raising of energy and an excitement and a bringing about of the force, whatever that force may be. And if you don't have a passion behind that part of the ritual, that part of the rite, then how can you expect success? How can you, if you're just reading words off of paper and you take a let's pick a god, okay? Pick a god, pick any god, doesn't matter. And you just read the words off a paper and you say, well, this god pertains to this. And I just say, oh, thee and thou, and you are a great God, come to me, but and give me this, and you can fill this talisman with this to bring me yada yada yada, blah blah blah, and you do it very bland, without feeling, and there's no love, there's no respect, there's no excitement for that deity. If you don't even believe that it's a thing, if you don't believe, even if you are just looking at it as a force and it's not a specific thing, even if you are looking at it as a psychological way, if you don't have a reverence for it, in a sense, then your results are going to be pretty crappy, honestly. There has to be passion, and passion comes through devotion. You get these experiences. Everybody wants to have experiences. We want to have this mystical experience. We want to, whether it's knowledge and conversation with the holy guardian angel, whether it's a successful evocation and interacting with a spirit, whether you think it's in your head or outside your head or whatever. We all want these experiences, but the thing behind these experiences, what gets you to this, is that aspect of reverence and devotion, and that feeling of passion, and it all goes back to devotion. I don't want to talk in circles on this topic, and again, I said this kind of took a different direction than what I originally expected it to do. But just getting back, let's bring it back around. Specific aspects of devotion. What do I mean? What I don't mean is I don't, a lot of times in some of the newer pagan traditions, you'll hear people mention I have a patron god or a matron goddess or whatever. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm not saying that that's a bad idea. I'm not saying you can't do that. But that's not what I mean. I'm not saying that that's necessary, that you sign yourself over essentially to only dealing with being A or being B and only showing love and reverence for that or whatever. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about very big picture and the act of devotion towards the act of magic itself and all these beings, anything that you work with, showing that, but reserving, well, not reserving, but I'm saying that what I'm getting at is this, is if you do choose to do something like that, that's perfectly okay. And I don't think, it really burns me up inside when people like down folks for doing things like that, and it happens, and it just something I got to work on, but it makes me mad. Now, if you can just see in my temple, I'm very much, I love images and idols and things of that sort, and I have a specific altar to Hecate back here, and I do show devotion to that goddess. And she means a very, very great deal to me. And I think when you have practices like that, whether it be a specific god or goddess, or an ancestral altar, or of course an altar to your angel or specific angels, if you work with, let's say I like to, everyone says work with, I don't know, now I'm saying it. If you work with a specific angel a lot of the time, and you have this love or an excitement for working with a specific angel. Um, you know, you may set up altars that, and that's all devotion. And, you know, you just, to take this out of magical practice is taking magic away, essentially. I mean, like all this stuff, when you get down to when you're talking about magic, as I defined it before, when I mean magic, not opening the door magic, but magic, ritual magic, doing stuff with the crystals and the gods and the spirits and the triangles and the, you know, all, and the incense and the wands and swords and the pentacles and all that, all the fun stuff, and the robes and nemesis and the crowns and, you know, all that cool stuff. When we're talking about magic, you know, it's composed of that. It's at its devotion and religiousness type practice is at the core of it. So I would, if you're a beginner watching this, I would encourage you to, of course, experiment smartly and safely. But find that niche, find that that specific area, you know, because there'll be one that kind of calls to you, and you'll know it, and go from there, and find that devotional love towards either a specific type of energy or just something that gets you, like, just something that you really feel an immense a passion, a love for, and run with them, because that's going to be something that will probably be a very a good success to you. Maybe not right away, but, you know, and sometimes it takes time, especially if you're talking about, I'm not going to go into individual entities and things like that, but, you know, there's different personalities and energies, and it's a learning experience. But I encourage you to find something that you're passionate about in your magical path. Continue doing your magical, your daily hygiene, your daily magical hygiene, your, you know, spiritual workouts, meditation, yoga, and, you know, your pentagram rituals, and, you know, whatever you have set forth by either your instructor or a curriculum plan that you've laid out for yourself. Continue with that. But when you find an area of interest, and if there's something you feel drawn to, there's no shame in being devoted to it. Don't think it makes you any less of a Thelemite. If you're a Thelemite and you're a Thelema magician, don't think that because you feel love for a specific deity or something, or if you work and give offerings to angels, don't, you know, if you work within a Judeo-Christian paradigm and you're a Thelemite and you feel love for, you know, these energies, don't think it makes you any less of a Thelemite, because again, ultimately the point is Thelema means will with a capital W, which is your life's purpose with a capital P. So if that's a part of your life's purpose, if magic is a part of your life's purpose, and love and working with entity A or entity B, whether they be from an Abrahamic Christian type thing or not, if it's a part of your will, it's a part of your will, and that's what you're supposed to be doing. So I don't know. I see people losing sight of things sometimes, and you know, I came to grasp with this too when it came to the whole Christian thing, because, you know, I very much consider myself a polytheist, or a pagan type person, even though we all know there was no real religion called paganism, you know. But what we refer to it today as paganism, I fall into that category. So sometimes we have to reconcile certain feelings or whatever. But what I'd like you to take away from this whole video is that, you know, when you find something like this, it's only going to take you higher in your magical path. So don't shy away from devotion. Be devoted. Be devoted in your practice. And if you find aspects of the practice, whether it be grimoire magic or a specific type of magic, like Enochian magic, or a specific branch of pagan magic or witchcraft or whatever, run with that. Run with it. You know, be devoted to it. Be passionate about it. Have fun. Show that love for it. If you do choose a, you know, I just don't like the term patron and matron, you know, God and God. I just, you know, it's not a big thing for me. But if you find something, if you find a being that you you feel close with, you hear a call, you have that intuitive feeling to keep working with that one, and you want to show them love and devotion, do it. It can only be beneficial. So devotion and religious type practice, they're just super important, and you'll only grow from it. You know, some people say, well, what if you get obsessed, blah blah, you know. Again, let's be CSOs here, and let's we'll use common sense in all approaches. And when I say common sense, we go with a balanced approach. We walk the middle pillar, and as long as we do that, we can be devoted, and we don't have to worry about going nutso or, you know, being out there or anything like that. As long as we keep it within the confines of balance and try not to be polarized, and show our love and devotion that way. Can't go wrong. So yeah, it's a bit longer than I wanted it to be, and took a little bit of a different direction. I'm not going to go on and on anymore. Not going to read any of chapter 2, really. But, you know, hey, well, since we're on it, we can reference the one part, and it's even in the Gnostic Mass, where and how I think it pertains to devotion. Again, this is not me interpreting the Book of the Law or anything like that, but when it talks about, you know, I am the flame that burns in every heart of man and in the core of every star. That line right there can symbolize, you know, devotion. You know, that flame, that yearning towards true will, your life's purpose, and to practice magic. And if that yearning, that flame that lights the way comes in the form of a specific deity that you choose to be devoted to and show love towards, then that's great. And it doesn't matter, you know, which one did, but it's a good thing. So we can go more into this on another time, and I'll go into some actual ways to show devotion, like, you know, setting up an altar to a deity, or just different things you can do. I wanted to go into that in this video, but like I said, you know, it took a whole different direction, and I go with what I feel, so that's where we end up. But we'll pick it up. We'll do a part 2. Why not? That has more of the practical elements of things you can do as devotional practice, because there's a lot of stuff out there, and, you know, we'll make this a teaser. So, there's lots, especially, when it comes to certain yogic practices and and daily prayers that you can do. So, part 2 on this will be coming very soon. It's been confirmed. But for now, I hope you got something out of this. And I'm not big on talking theory, and I know that's the direction that this went in. But like I said, I kind of just I got to go where I'm led to go, and that's what happened. So we'll get to the other things in part 2. And I hope this was helpful. And if anyone was feeling conflicted about certain things, I hope this might have cleared things up for you, even if you're not a Thelemite. Or if one of the reasons you were considering yourself not a Thelemite was worrying you that you would be demonized for having feelings like this. Again, devotion, it's a good thing. Okay. So yeah, that's about all for today. I went on long enough. We'll get to part 2, and I'll give you some more stuff as far as certain things you can do. I don't know if that'll be the next video or not because I had another plan, and we'll announce that at another time. But we've got some other great topics that are going to come up soon about how to actually set up a Golden Dawn style magical ritual. I'm also going to do a video on Wicca and modern witchcraft and things like that. So, yeah. Thank you guys for watching me. Again, sorry about the sound, and that's about it. Look in the description, all sorts of cool things. Big shout out to my Patreon patrons. If you're interested in becoming a member of the team and helping this channel grow and improve, become a Patreon patron. The link is in the description. You can also throw a tip in the tip jar. That's always appreciated. And like I said, we have team merch. I mentioned it earlier. Really cool shirts and mugs and bags and pillows and all kinds of cool stuff. I'll be getting hats soon. More and more stuff is added all the time. But there's some really, really cool things on there right now. So grab your rewards today. Become a member of the team. Check out everything in the description. Shirts, mugs, everything. It's awesome. All right, to all the CSOs out there, thank you very much. CSO is Common Sense the Cultist, if you haven't guessed that already. And, yeah, I thank you very much. I'll see you guys very, very soon. Go create a magical day. Love is the law. Love under will.